Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Quite a few topics to discuss today. I'll give a list of them. Hope you guys are all doing well today. Let me see here. I don't celebrate the Sabbath anymore because of that proof that I gave. It's in Scripture, but I certainly don't judge people who choose to. So anyways, it's still the Sabbath day, so I'll say happy Sabbath day. There's some topics that I want to discuss that may be inflammatory to some people, but it's just the truth. It's just the truth. It's hard to know how to say things sometimes, but it's going to be about Islam. It's going to be about Muslims coming into our country, being let in, mind you, seemingly in large amounts, which seems extremely purposeful. And so I'm going to talk about that, and of course I'm going to make it clear I don't have any race issues, prejudice, any of that type of stuff. And anyone who says so, I don't care. The only one who judges me is God. And we live in a Christian nation, or at least we used to. And so it's our values that matter, and it's people who don't speak up. And I don't believe that Christians used to be pacifists in the way they are now. That's why I think we've gone down. You may not believe that, but it's true. I also want to talk about, sorry, I didn't put these, not on the mark today. When was the Jew first called the Jew? I'm just going to go along my topics here, okay? First, I just want to start out with a prayer. It's for the same person as last time. I didn't give a name. I guess someone who is kind of doing okay, but let's just say they're not living in one spot, and they need prayers to make sure that their journey, wherever they go, that they're safe, that they can find food and clothing for their back, right? We're not searching for riches. We're not searching for that type of stuff. But we do want stability, right? So I ask you to pray for, my voice is going, I ask you to pray for this person. And I don't like giving names unless people's names want to be known. Unless people's names want to be known. So I just say, please pray for this person. I know there was more stuff I wanted to discuss here. These are interesting topics. I'm studying I just started to study the Quran. I've read a bunch of the Quran before, but this time I'm doing it differently. I'll get like maybe a quarter of the way, or maybe even halfway through, and I'll just stop. But this time I'm not going to do that, and actually this time what I'm doing is, and I think it would be excellent for you to do this too if you've ever thought about this. I think it's excellent to have that kind of wisdom and knowledge in the back of your mind when you hear certain arguments, certain debates that you're able to put down. So I don't think it's always good enough just to have the Bible to put them down. You have to be able to correct them with their own stuff. So what I'm doing is, as I'm going through the surahs, right, chronological order, look for one for chronological order, I'm writing notes as I go along. So if I read something, I'm like, that's not the way it is. That sounds like a forgery from the Bible. Or they turned it around type thing. I'll go over, I'll put, Surah 2, verse whatever. I'll write that down so I can go back to those notes. It is my wish that, they are all saved, of course, right? That's That should be all of our wishes. So the other night, okay, I don't know if you guys listen to politics or not. I do, not as much as I used to. I just want to know what's going on because it always interested me. And you've heard that Trump's running mate, right, the guy who chose J.D. Vance, he started making comments both about a lot of stuff. And one of those comments was that the UK will be the first country that it'll be the first Muslim country that gets a nuclear weapon. And that really got to them. But hey, you know what? What they're saying is the truth. And not long after that, there was a riot in Leeds. Okay, when I saw that riot, I saw them turn over a police car. Just the police were coming to a call. And can you imagine being a police officer in the no-go zones? There's a reason why I want to talk about this. It needs to be talked about. They're right. What happens is they start taking over neighborhoods, right? Because they live close to one another. They don't disperse among us and become our friends. No, they all come together, right? They live in a neighborhood. All of a sudden, the neighborhood gets so big that you can't go in it. And when the police go in, they need other escorts, or fire trucks go in, they need police escorts. Can you imagine that? Like, your country's being taken over. I'm writing an article which I will read. I'll probably be done in about a week, of what I remember what it used to be like. Christians were the first people to speak up. I'm old enough to remember when there were no mosques, none. And when the first one was presented, how crazy people went. And they were right to do so. There never should have been one, because of the sharp contrast. It goes against. You have to read the Quran. You can't just say all religions should be practiced. You have to read what they believe. It's insane, this stuff. Kill the Jews, kill the Christians. It says that in a surah. I have to go over that again. There's more to that. Okay? But when I saw that riot, I'm looking on Reddit to see things people have written, see if they can sum it up well. And I'm going to read you something. And, whether this gets taken down, if this gets taken down, you know that the truth can't be spoken, right? We live in a time where evil is good and good is evil. We're being punished for doing good stuff. And here's the reality. Go look up Victor David Hanson. Obama started it all. Do you know we were on a healing path in America for the civil rights movement? Everything was coming together as far as black-white relations, that kind of thing. There was no more "you're racist," all this type of stuff. You know who brought it up? It was Barack Obama. That's where everything came after, like the LGBTQ, CRT, all that stuff was all brought up by him again. It wasn't necessary to happen. It didn't have to happen, but he did it. I respect Victor David Hanson, if you know who I'm talking about. What is he, from the Hoover Institute? Very smart man. So I'm going to read you something. You might say, how is this edifying? These are things that are happening in our world. It's hard to watch them. And to be honest, where I live, listen guys, I live in a good place. I live in Canada. Do you know we have the most asylum, refugee, immigration per population? Isn't it just magical? Isn't it just magical how every Western country is letting in so many Muslims, men? When do you stop and say there must be an agenda? They're letting in a lot of Chinese as well as Indian. But what I'm pertaining to are people who don't want to work with our values. That should be a must on a checklist. Go look at the U.S. border, it's wide open. You know what's happening. Islam is to conquer. So I'm gonna read something, and then I'm gonna get on to some stuff that is edifying. Just give me a second. I have to find the one here, because you'd find it interesting. Okay, so it's the one that has... So I should have been a little bit more prepared here. Here it is. There's a lot of them. Listen to this. This is the kind of stuff that they tell you it's not okay to talk about. It's not okay to read. You know, what's his name? Tommy Robinson, is that his name? From the UK, who goes around the world and talks about how Islam isn't a religion of peace. Listen, guys, it's not a religion of peace. There may be people who are peaceful in Islam for sure, and that is probably the vast majority. But there's probably 10%, 5 or 10% is a massive, massive number of the hardline terrorism type people. It's not good. It's destroying every single country. And you know it. So, why do European countries receive so many Muslims? These are not my words. And that's because Muslims don't want to live in Islamic countries. Why do they not want to live with their peaceful Muslim brothers in Islamic paradises? Because they don't exist. Muslim countries are mainly barbaric, medieval, war-ridden, violent, undemocratic, religiously obsessed hellholes with few personal freedoms. Now, I don't know if I agree with all that, but certainly a lot of that is true. Certainly war-ridden, certainly violent. They're undemocratic, religiously obsessed. A lot are medieval, so I'd say most of that's true. When a minority, but a significant one, that's what I just was articulating. If it's just 5 or 10%, that's many, many millions. Kill each other like savages without compassion. So they're happy in every country that is not Muslim and unhappy in every country that is. They can only obtain equality under the law, fair employment, rules, and freedom from oppression in Christian countries. Can't they see the obvious correlation? No, they don't. They do, or they don't want to talk about it. When these people emigrate, is it logical that they will automatically lose the religious obsession and intolerance that blights their own countries just because they change their address? To be fair, most immigrants just want to get on with family life and avoid trouble. Most European Asians are not the ones who committed atrocities in their native lands. What's more, they're a trading race, usually enterprising and hardworking. So he's making a comparison of European Asians versus Muslim. But that's not enough for a minority, though. They want to change their adoptive country to be like the country they came from. They're coming from the oppression. They're trying to leave oppression, but they're trying to oppress you. Where they were unhappy with barbaric Sharia law, etc. They don't want to integrate into society. They seek to create enclaves of little Pakistan, little Syria, etc. They're glad they get all these freedoms, but they don't honor the traditions that we have built up over a long time. So there it is. That you and I have built up all these beautiful things over a long time. They reject our society and maintain only token contact. They accept freedom of religion here because it means they themselves have freedom, and also because the law forces them to accept freedom for other religions too. If that wasn't so, they would go back to being religiously intolerant like they were before they changed their address. Naive Brits won't face the obvious because it's politically incorrect. Immigration without a high degree of integration is tantamount to invasion. Slow, controlled immigration is a boon. However, now listen to this. This is why I say Christians are most certainly partly responsible for this. Everybody is. These are people in power who are rich, who are destroying us. However, over rapid, uncontrolled immigration of people from totally different cultures and traditions disorientates a society and makes it lose its bearings. Wouldn't you think so? And like they're, you know, like you have apple juice, right? And you start pouring a little of something else. It's like them pouring in half apple juice, half oranges, right? Half orange juice. It's too much. And unravels its native culture. It melts the glue that holds a society together. The change imposed on society is so sudden and substantial. It has no chance of integrating and absorbing the incomers. This leads to resentment, internal conflict, and violence. When I see them interviewing Mayorkas, and he's lying over and over and over and over again, you know that they're doing it on purpose. Some Westerners have argued that the West doesn't have problems with Islam, but only with violent extremists. 1,400 years of history demonstrate otherwise. Give me a sec. Having a hard time with contraction in my throat today. Give me a sec. I don't talk that much, so I never know what it's going to be like. So, let's see here. Samuel P. Huntington. Islam is not held responsible for the murderous, insane action of its extremists. How many Christian fundamentalists have you seen going out and doing these things? Islam is a peaceful religion, everyone says, and has no part in the atrocities, even although the offenders usually shout Allahu Akbar and they slit Christians' throats. On the other hand, Christianity is held to blame for the extremist views of Christian fundamentalists. Everyone in the UK and Western Europe is encouraged to cherish and protect their own culture, except indigenous whites and particularly Christians. listen, guys, this is what they're pushing. When they do that, they're vilified and called racist. That's what the far left does. That's their card, and it wins. What multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture in the world except Western culture, and you cannot blame any culture in the world except Western culture. Thomas Sowell. So that was from a black man, okay? U.S. economist and historian, and he's very good at what he does. A population voluntarily replacing it. Listen to this. This is the insanity of what is happening. A population voluntarily replacing itself is unique in all of human history. That's because it's masochistic, deluded madness, and no other indigenous people in their right minds would even contemplate. Non-Westerners can't believe our naivety and lack of moral fiber. They're shaking their heads and laughing their socks off. We need to protect our indigenous values, culture, and traditions. If you're not prepared to fight to defend civilization, then prepare to accept barbarism. Can you see why it needs to be talked about? And I can just hear you. I can just hear some people saying in the back of their mind, but we're Christians, we have to be this way. No, we don't. We can fight for these values. That's what's been lost. It's that kind of thinking that got us here. Very weak-minded people. And that's both in the church. That's, like the Pope doesn't speak up about these things. Top church leaders don't. There's a lot of power there, but of course it's politicians. There's something else I want to talk about too before this, which is interesting. So by the way, you look at the countries that haven't let in Islam, okay? Haven't let in Muslims, like Japan, North Korea, places like that. And they don't have those problems. Do you know I just saw this statistic, okay? I love statistics. 77% of sexual assaults in France were done by Middle Easterners. This is congruent in every single Western country. I try to look you right in the eye because it's true. Because no one wants to face it. Nobody wants to face it. And that's why I decided to start studying the surahs. And I want to say this before I get to this. Where did I write that down? Islam is about conquering other countries. It's submitting, okay? And this is what's happening around the world. You can't deny it. After Jesus Christ, he wasn't a prophet, by the way. After Jesus, why would another person... We know that Jesus fulfilled so many scriptures. He fulfilled the law. He fulfilled all the things written about him in Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, all throughout the Psalms, all throughout the Old Testament, all of them, both small and big prophets, right? And major and minor prophets. It was about Jesus. If you look in there, there's nothing that's fulfilled about Muhammad. Maybe the dragon. There's nothing. It is only in relation to Jesus Christ. So why would someone come after Jesus Christ? Why would he marry a young little girl? Why would he murder people and conquer other people? Not to mention that He said he had a vision of Gabriel was it in a cave? Don't get me for this. This is what I remember. A vision by Gabriel, but for 2 years he didn't even realize if it was a demon or if it was an angel, and that it was something of a sexual nature, like he was playing with himself for 2 years. He didn't know if it was a woman or didn't know. This is the point that I'm getting at, and I'll actually look for that if you don't believe me, and I'll share that in the description box. No born again person can be possessed. It sounds like he was possessed. I've read the arguments, I understand them. Muhammad didn't know the difference between a demon and an angel. That is the proof that he is false. Just give me a sec. I certainly like to talk about things that other people don't. Do you not think that these things are important to our journey? I mean, we got to know what's happening around us. Do you just want to sit around and... It has to do with the people, it may be so far beyond us, right? It could be people right at the very top, and it likely is, pulling those strings. Why is Canada letting in so many people? Do you know, I was reading how stressed out doctors are in emergency rooms. I've had to go to the hospital many times because of different pains, different stuff, and I've been in emergency rooms, and like the last 2 or 3 times was like 15-hour wait, just unheard of. It can be longer. So I was reading this study ever since 2020, right? How stressed out they are, that they're starting not to really feel for their patients anymore. Can you imagine? They're losing the level wax cold. That is what's happening to the physicians. They're so overwhelmed. I wanted to say this, that where I live, listen, I get along with everybody if they get along with me. My neighbor was Muslim, okay? I loved him. He was nice. He was really nice. It's people who don't want anything to do with your country, okay? That's what I mean, and I know you know exactly what I mean. Who only want to live in bands of groups. It doesn't make sense to have that in your country, and people who don't want to work. When I go out now, I don't recognize my country, okay? That's what I'm saying. I didn't think it would... Trudeau let in so many people. It's just insane. I won't speak too much to where I live, but that's the way it is now. So the question is just 5-10 years, what is it going to look like? It's going to be unrecognizable. And you see, Donald Trump getting in and stuff. What's he going to do? What's Europe going to do? And to tell you the truth, I don't think they're going to be able to take that much more if all this stuff continues. Okay. So that was the truth. I'm speaking the truth. I'm not saying I'm not saying specific people, but the how they're not assimilating with their values. I'm not saying all of them either, okay? It's destroying the Western society. And it brings me right to my next topic. Now, I'm sure you guys don't even want to hear about this either, but think of Ukraine, okay? I don't hear people saying this. People want to know, why did this happen? And when you look deeply into it, Vladimir Putin was saying, don't encroach on my territory. He was saying this for 15 years. don't put missiles on my territory. Don't surround me. And then the coup attempt in, 2014, and they took the Crimea, Putin did. It was all contrived by the U.S., okay? It was. That is their fault, and so what happened was Viktor Yanukovych was pro-Russian, okay, in the Ukraine, in Kiev. He just wanted a buffer zone, right? That's understandable, okay? It's understandable why he wants a buffer zone. And anyways, they did a coup, the U.S. did, it was their fault. And Viktor Yanukovych had to leave by helicopter because he was literally being attacked, and replaced him with pro-Ukrainian government. And then that's why Putin went and took Crimea. It sounds like the U.S. is the problem, right? So I'm just trying to bring you into the truth here. And you look and you say, well, maybe what Putin did was right, but he shouldn't have done it that way, right? He's been screaming and yelling this from the rooftops for a long time. But then I look at something and I realize, when I see this whole war, and guys, I'm not, I don't think about these things. I'm just doing it in this video alone. These things have always interested me. So, because I self-studied war. When you look at our institutions now in Europe and the United States and Canada, do you not see that the far left, that we're living in socialism? Is in the United States and Canada, it seems it's all in the Western countries, and I hope there is a wild swing the other way. But I wonder this: during the Cold War, China and the Soviet Union, they could not hope, even together, the whole world together couldn't fight the United States by itself. The United States is a power that I don't think will ever be replicated again. You have no idea the stuff that they have. And I'm not talking just nuclear weapons and stuff like that, okay? A lot of people have those. You have 500, that's enough. Just give me a sec. I'm thinking of this whole situation. We have all these communists, these Marxists. You see them as well as I. All you have to do is go look at them question, the Senate question people. Like the whole agenda of LGBTQ, all of it, all the stuff that makes no sense. It's communist. And so I have to wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. Because China and Russia could not defeat the United States, they said this: if we can't defeat them militarily, we'll defeat them from the inside out. What does that mean? That means that we have the patience, especially China. Well, I'm sure the Russians are the brains of all this, okay? China is able to move mountains, let's say. They have so many people, they have so much infrastructure. But Russia is the brains, the communists. You say they're gone. No, not that ideal. It's not gone. They started to implant them, and that's why you see all these protesters and their professors in their universities not condoning it, condemning it. It's Marxism. We have a Marxist society now. And that's why J. Edgar Hoover, go watch the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, J. Edgar. It's really good. So in like the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, and 40s, he was kicking out all the communists. This is what's happened to our society. So that's why I say all this Ukraine, it looks like it's the United States' fault, right? And it's understandable why they attacked. They had to make a buffer zone. That's what they're doing. But when you look at, is it possible that the Soviets and the Chinese did this to us? And this is what we see in society. And really everything is from God in some way, right? I just wanted to express all that, how complex this is. You never know what the fight behind the veil is. So that's what I wanted to talk about with both those things. Guys, are just, you may say, look, this is what I don't like. Christians don't think that we can still get victories. Don't you think it's good if we still get a victory on the road? We don't know how long it's going to be. We're in the last days. We know the times and the seasons. We see the things that are happening. They're nonstop. They're very evil. But why wouldn't we still try to fight for them? I think it's pretty weak. Anyway, I'll get to the next topic in just a second. Give me a sec. My abdomen really hurts. It was Barack Obama who brought up Islamophobia. All these things. He regurgitated. He just brought it up, and it wasn't necessary. And people started to buy into it. You can do your own study on this to find out that it's true. Hi, buddy. In this cage over there. Okay, what was I going to talk about next? That was really deep, like, it bothers me to see that people aren't standing up anymore. They think we're just, be harmless as doves and wise as serpents, and don't fight for anything. Just let it happen. That's not the right way to do it, guys. You have to certainly pick your battles, and there's no cohesiveness anymore. And you know what the reality is that it's like we're outnumbered, right? How many true believers in Christ are going to come together and do that, right? There's not that many, right? I don't think, anyways. So I do understand that part of it. So something interesting. Let me see here. What was I going to talk about? You and I shall judge angels. What is that? Where did I put that? Okay, I don't have that up. But it says in 1 Corinthians, I forget which chapter, maybe 6 or 7. It says that you and I, don't you know that we shall judge angels? And I just wanted to say this, that the real translation of judge is to govern. Oh yeah, this is it. We're not, like, this is just what they think. We're not going to judge angels except for the fallen angels, okay? We're not going to judge the others. We're not going to judge the other ones because they've all done right. Because if they haven't done right, they would be with the demons. Let's just say, right? The translation is to govern. That's what it says. Right on to the next thing. Who was the first Jew? See, I do these videos and I don't even know what my thumbnail is going to be. I like to talk about a whole, if I did this, there would be so many videos, and then I get so many ideas. I just want to talk about them. Who was the first Jew? Good question, right? Part of the difficulty with this question, this has got questions, is the fact that the word Jew doesn't occur in the Bible until 2 Kings 16:6. KJV, at that time Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria and drove the Jews from Elath. And the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there until this day. In 2 Kings 25:25. But in the 7th month, Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the royal family, came with 10 men and struck down Gedaliah and put him to death along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Wasn't that in Jeremiah? So it wasn't until those in Kings and most other Bible translations. In those instances, the Hebrew word would literally better be translated men of Judah. The word Jew is much more commonplace in the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. So like after the exile, during the exile. The usage of the word Jew in those books helps explain the origin of the word and why it was used. The answer to the question, who was the first Jew, depends on what exactly is meant by the word Jew. Originally, God's chosen people were known as the Hebrews. Later, after they settled in the Promised Land and formed a nation, they were known as the Israelites. The term Jew didn't come into use until after the 10 northern tribes were exiled to Assyria and Judah was exiled to Babylon. In the later stages of the captivity, Esther, and in the early stages of the return to the land of Israel, Ezra and Nehemiah, the tribe of Judah was dominant. The word Jew developed as a shortening of the word Judah. But the word Jew used as a descriptor for more than just the tribe of Judah, so it could be both. I hate when they put ads and it goes over the words, like you just know we are in the end times when it's like covering up Bible verses. The dominance of the tribe of Judah in the return to the Promised Land resulted in all of the Israelites, people from all 12 tribes, being referred to as Jews. Joshua. I'll show you his cage from here, because I have a computer laptop and I got a wire a camera, so it's not my laptop camera. So who was the first Jew? If by Jew we mean Hebrew, Abraham was the first Jew. If by Jew we mean of the tribe of Judah, Judah was the first Jew, literally Judah of the 12. If by Jew we mean the first person in the Bible to be referred as a Jew, the nameless Jews in 2 Kings, as I read at the beginning there, chapters 16 to 25 were the first Jews. Generally speaking, people today use the term Jew to refer to a person who was of the chosen people of Israel. With that in mind, Abraham should be considered the first Jew. So we're looking at like 3 different possibilities. And that brings me to another thing about judging the angels that I came to. What was it? You know, when you think about what's going to happen, are we going to have the same bodies as now? When we have our glorified body? You know what I think it's going to be like? I think it's not going to be like you're going to be attractive, you're going to be ugly, you're going to be, I'm not going to say ugly, like just, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be any of that. I think that type of stuff is going to be when you look at the Garden of Eden, right, and you think of, they must have known and seen each other as loving each other, right? So Adam and Eve, and they must have been able to see that they were attracted to each other. But for some reason, I just feel, this is my own feelings, that when we get our glorified bodies, we will all have that same thing. Well, I don't think God would make it so there were any differences between us in the way that one person would be looked at as more beautiful than another, smarter than another. That's just what I think. And when I think of where we will govern the angels, what is the reason for that? Because it says in John that we will be just like him. Can you imagine that? We will see him as he is. It won't be like the Bible. It won't be like some parable, an explanation. The way you and I are now, true believers of Christ, are coming close to that. So when we are glorified and the Lord meets us in the air, at that point, we will be perfect like him. Can you imagine? It will be a feeling that is so far beyond anything you can imagine. Guys, I got to stop the video here. Excuse me. Thanks for watching. It's hard to speak, number one. It's hard to talk about things, those first things, about Muslims, like about Islam, about them coming into, when they come into a country, they live in big groups, and then all of a sudden there's no-go zones, the crime goes up, all that type of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that's not true. It's absolutely true. It's a shame that I should have to even feel that that it feels wrong to talk about. And the reason I'm talking about it is because it's destroying society, number one, but two, because we are partly responsible for it. We are. God bless.